Hi, fourth graders, and welcome to Wednesday's Writers Workshop. Yesterday, we talked about how one way historical fiction writers get story ideas is through research. Today, we're going to continue to explore other ways that historical fiction writers get their ideas. Today, I want to teach you that another way historical fiction writers brainstorm story ideas is by examining resources about the time period they are studying and looking specifically for possible conflicts, characters, and a plot. Writers of historical fiction often create timelines of a period to organize the events in chronological order and then later look back at those timelines and think, what were some of the moments of conflict that could help develop a story idea? And what stories might be hidden in these sequence of events? Today we're going to watch a video about Anne Frank and her family. As the video plays, be thinking of those two important questions. Who could a character be here? Whose story might you tell? And what could be taking place? Be ready to share out some possible story ideas with your partner, class, or small group.
She's one of the most influential, widely read writers of the 20th century, and she never lived to see her book in print, or even to see her 16th birthday. We're talking about Anne Frank, a symbol of resilience and lost innocence in the face of the Holocaust. Anne Frank was born in 1929 in Frankfurt, Germany, the youngest daughter of a Jewish family. Hitler and his anti-Semitic Nazi party rose to power in 1933, and so the Frank family moved to the more tolerant city of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. In June of 1940, the Netherlands was invaded by Germany, and conditions for people there, especially Jews, began to deteriorate. The Franks tried to leave for the US, but were blocked from doing so by restrictive immigration policies. Later, on her 13th birthday, Anne received a simple present that would have enormous historical repercussions. It was a blank diary. In it, Anne chronicled her thoughts and feelings, writing about her family and friends and boys, all the kind of things you might expect from a young teenage girl. As Anne began her diary, the situation in occupied Netherlands worsened. Jews were stripped of their rights, forbidden from attending schools, from shopping at most stores, and from taking public transportation. They were subject to a curfew, and they were being sent to work in camps. Faced with these increasingly difficult circumstances, the Franks made a daring decision. They would go into hiding. Their hiding place? A series of unoccupied rooms above the warehouse of the company where Anne's father Otto had worked. In early July of 1942, the Franks fled to this secret annex, while leaving acquaintances to think they'd actually fled the country. The family would attempt to wait out the Nazi occupation. They had help from a small group of friends who brought them food and supplies and kept their secret. But the Franks and others could never leave the annex. They lived in constant fear of discovery and arrest. All this time, for over 2 years, Anne kept her diary. She wrote with a wit and an awareness well beyond her years. Tragically, the Frank family's time in the secret annex came to an abrupt end in August 1944. The Gestapo raided their quarters and sent everyone to concentration camps. The Franks were taken to Auschwitz, and later, Anne and her sister Margot were moved to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany. In the late winter or early spring of 1945, they both died there, most likely of typhus. The only one from the annex to survive the war was Anne's father, Otto Frank. After the end of the war, Otto returned to Amsterdam. One of the women who brought them food while they were in hiding, Miep Gies, gave him a pile of papers and documents she'd rescued from the annex. Among those papers was Anne's diary. Otto was astounded by what he read and sought to bring Anne's writing to a wider public. First published in the Netherlands in 1947, Anne's diary eventually came out in America in 1952 under the title Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. Anne Frank's diary remains one of the most widely read books across the globe. It's been translated into over 60 languages, and over 30 million copies are in print. The world will never forget the story of Anne Frank and her family, and the millions of others who lost their lives in the Holocaust.
Okay, so let's look back at some timeline that we can make from that video. So I just put together this draft timeline of something to help guide my writing for my historical fiction writing piece. Okay, so based on the video, we learned that Anne Frank was born in 1929 in Frankfurt, Germany. In 1933, Hitler's Nazi Party rose to power. The Frank family moved to Amsterdam. Then, in June of 1940, Netherlands was invaded by Germany. The Frank family tried to escape to the U.S., but were unable to do so due to strict immigration policies. On June 12th, Anne's 13th birthday, she received a present that would have enormous historical repercussions. It was a blank diary. In her diary, she documented how Jews began being treated in the Netherlands. They were banned from attending schools, shopping at most stores, from taking public transportation, subject to a curfew, and sent to work camp. In early July of 1942, the Frank family went into hiding in the annex of her father's office building. They didn't leave the annex for 2 years. Then, in August of 1944, they were discovered, captured, and sent to different concentration camps. The Frank family was first sent to a camp in Auschwitz, Poland, and later Anne and her sister Margot were sent to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany, where they both died in either the late winter or early spring of 1945. Next steps. Now you're going to go back to Google Classroom and complete your Wednesday writing assignment outlined below. This is your assignment for today. After watching the video and the lesson for today, use the graphic organizer below to plan out your historical fiction stories. Be sure to look at timelines and facts and ask yourself, what were some of the moments of conflict in this time period that could have helped develop a story idea? And what stories might be hidden in these sequences of events? So you're going to look at this graphic organizer and you're going to be thinking about conflicts, characters, and plots. You're going to outline your time period, what issues people were facing during that time period, and who could a character be here, and what types of conflict or conflicts will my character face? And then how can my plot and setting make my story more believable? Remember, plots are when things happen in a story, and the setting is a time and a place and a mood. Good luck!